Let's talk about how close we are to potential World War III and nuclear warfare.
Way too close.
How could this go? How could this go if it doesn't go? How could this end up in World War III?
I think a couple of different ways, right? So I'm sure that Russia has red lines, some of which we're not even aware of in Ukraine. You get to a situation where is a Russian red line crossed? They're a nuclear power. Do they start using tactical nuclear weapons in eastern Ukraine? If that happens, then probably at least some of the Eastern European countries like Poland have to get involved. That balloons into a World War III scenario. I think the most likely and the most dangerous scenario is Iran and Israel right now. So obviously the Israelis are on high alert. They just had this terrorist attack. They're dealing with Hamas. What if in North Israel, a bunch of Iranian-backed militias start killing thousands of Israeli civilians? Okay, so the Israelis invade, do the Iranians counterattack, and now you have Israel, Iran in a regional conflict. The Turks probably have to get involved. The Saudi Arabians probably have to get involved. And then that is the sort of thing that could balloon into World War III. And then the final thing, man, is China wants Taiwan, right? Everything that we have tells us the Chinese want Taiwan. America, I think, has left Taiwan in a really crappy position because we've sent all our weapons to Ukraine. The Taiwanese, I don't know that they could repel a Chinese invasion right now. And so do the Chinese invade Taiwan? That leads to some sort of accelerating conflict there. So there are basically at least 3 hotspots in the world right now that each have the potential to become a major worldwide conflict. It's really scary. And this is one of the reasons why I say, like,
Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakar, Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect. All right, so you have more World War III talk as we see the Vice President J.D. Vance, sitting down with this dude and speaking on how close we are to World War III starting. And he goes over, all the conflicts on the earth. Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan. We know that Russia, China condemned the U.S. for, going in there and stealing the oil from Venezuela. Now the U.S. is in conflict with Russia and China over Greenland, accusing them of trying to take that territory first. And it's just a lot of conflict, on the earth that's, ultimately going to lead, to World War III. Revelation 11 and 14, the second woe was past. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And you see all this conflict on the earth, man, amongst the nations. The Most High is stirring up the nations and putting them in a spirit of war. Everybody has, you have a lot of countries that are nuclear capable. Everybody is showing their weapons. Everybody has a problem with this one and that one. And eventually it's going to come to a head. And, World War III is going to start. And nukes are going to begin to be getting shot around the globe, man. All right, this is not just propaganda. These nations are not just, speaking negatively about each other and, flexing weapons, for no reason. All right, this interview, is very telling. And this is just a clip out of the interview, but it's very telling, as it pertains to the climate of the world, man. All right, the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, is stirring these nations up, man. All right, the third woe cometh quickly. This can start at any minute. Now we know the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip, all right, the implantable device, has to be made mandatory and the world has to be tried before, ultimately the destruction comes. All right, but, these things can happen at any time. It's not, as far off, as a lot of people think it is. So a lot of people think, it's just going to be talks of this conflict and things are going to die down. Things are just going to continue to accelerate until, once again, ultimately, missiles are shot. Nuclear missiles are shot. Jeremiah 50 And 24, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art not found, and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right. This is going to be the punishment of this place. All right. The punishment of Edom. All right. Your chief city, which is America, is going to get taken off the earth. And, you, as well as all these other nations, are going to go into captivity under the Israelites, man. All right. But the Most High is going to use these nations to destroy each other. As you can see, it's been nothing but war talk for years. We've had 2 world wars. I don't see why people think it's so far-fetched that another one could kick off. It's just this one is going to be a nuclear war, man. All right. That's why you see all these nations jockeying for position, whether it be the nuclear arms race, whether it be certain territories, as you see America is starting to, take over certain territories in spite of Russia and China. The Venezuela deal, what happened down there, the attempt to acquire Greenland. This is all to keep it away from Russia and China. America is supplying Ukraine with weapons, as JD Vance said in his clip, which is now they feel like they can't help Taiwan, which is an adversary of China, like they want to, because they're supplying Russia's enemy with weapons, man. It's all nothing but war games going on, man. All right. The Lord, this is verse 25. The Lord hath opened his armory and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. All right, he's opened his armory. What's in an armory? Artillery. All right, what's that artillery? Nuclear weapons. All right. All this technology you see on the earth, this is the doing of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. He has these nations producing all these weapons. He has created the tension between the nations. Why? To ultimately judge them. All right, for their dealings with the Israelites, you Negroes, Latino, Native, Seminole Indian, or ultimately the elect right now, but the whole nation. All right. This is the doing of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. These nations, ain't thinking for themselves. The Most High, he declared the end from the beginning. And now it's time for the third woe to come. All right. It's Isaiah 54 and 16. Behold, I have created a smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy those nuclear weapons, man. All right. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is putting a spirit on these nations. Or he's ultimately going to put the spirit on these nations to shoot fire on each other, man. Scripture said that the earth going to rock to and fro. That's how much impact, all right, all these weapons are going to have on the earth. The whole earth going to shake. And its place, all right, is going to be utterly wasted, man. Esau can't see it through his pride. As you see the pride on Trump, the pride on Vance, the pride on Hegseth. Lindsey Graham is another one, which is a Republican senator. As they speak on, their dealings with the nations, they're very proud. All right, but we know, pride coming before the fall, man. And Esau is puffed up right now, running behind Nero. 2nd Ezra 16-13. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. I was talking about the nuclear missiles, man. All right, getting shot, only an intercontinental ballistic missile can be shot from one end of the earth to the other. And this is the spirit that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai has these nations in. They ready for war. You know, you have Vance, who's considered a leader in this place. He's amongst the leadership. He's talking about World War III. You know, Putin, Xi Jinping, you know, Iran, Kim Jong-un, who's been wanting to shoot missiles on this place forever. Everybody's in this World War III nuclear talk, and it's eventually going to happen. All right. But I ain't gonna hold you. Hope that video was edifying. Shalom.